It's spooky season for all of those who celebrate, and today I'm going to be talking about McKamey Manor. Now, McKamey Manor is a very infamous haunted house, quote unquote, attraction that seeks to beat people up, not torture them, but kind of. Oh, what was that? Oh, take it away, Russ.
And you know what? I'm saying you beat people up. I'll be honest with you, man. We do torture people.
Okay, so they torture people, but it is what it is, right? You sign the waiver, you should be good to go. You should be safe. They're obviously trained. Oh wait, what's that? Oh, sorry. Go again, Mr. McKamey.
We torture them, and I'll tell you this, and I'm okay with this. We've had 3 people die at McKamey Manor, and that's the way it happens. That's why I told you you have to be careful and listen to directions. I don't want anybody else dying there.
Okay, so yeah, this story is not as fun as maybe I was anticipating when I first started doing research, but every year on YouTube, it seems, there's a YouTube video about McKamey Manor, and I haven't come across one this year. And I feel like it's my turn to give the gift to you of giving you the new, updated history of McKamey Manor and why it's so infamous. And yeah, there are some new details, so let's get right into it with a kind of quick overview of the history, and then we'll kind of go into some more specific stories, if you will. So McKamey Manor is a haunted house. I'll call it a torture house attraction where you essentially try and survive 8 to 10 hours. They call it a tour. It's just getting tortured for 8 to 10 hours. It was originally founded in San Diego by Russ McKamey at his home, and eventually it moved because I think he was like, hey, like people in California actually care what I'm doing and they don't want to hear people screaming at all hours of the night. So in 2017, it was relocated to Somerton, Tennessee, and a separate location was opened in Huntsville, Alabama the same year. Now, this is a year-long attraction. This is not like some Halloween specialty. They do this year-round, but they're pretty exclusive about who they actually let join it. And to go through this, you have to do a ton of stuff. You have to sign a huge waiver that will give you like explicit details of what they're going to do to you, which is like various forms of torture, which, even includes things like getting tattooed, getting teeth extracted, having your fingernails removed. Just a lot of bad things. In addition to just a waiver, you also have to get a doctor's physical. You have to have like a bunch of medical stuff that's basically clearing you to do this. They don't just let anybody do it, which, hey, you know, maybe you could say that's good on them for actually caring. I call it more just covering your bases. This is like a bunch of sick, twisted individuals that torture people and get, you know, a little bit of satisfaction. Now, I have a theory, and I try to keep things light. I know this isn't really a light story, but I like to think that there's some sort of sexual fantasy in it for some people, both those that are doing the torturing and those that are getting tortured, because otherwise I just really don't understand it. Let me read to you really quickly some quotes from one of the tour guides. So, how these tour guides work is they usually have gone through the process and then come back as volunteers to do this. And one of them, Ryan Lawrence, is quoted as saying, I'm not going to lie, I go hard on the big guys. I've got 3 kids, a lady, and 6 dogs. A lot going on in my life. This is a great de stressor. And he then looks at his tools, which include plastic restraints, a rope, and robust looking airtight plastic bags which fit snugly over an adult human head. Another quote, I'm here to make sure no one makes it out. I get carried away. I don't really have a line. So then later on, there's a further quote from him talking specifically about one of the victims that was going to be tortured that night. And he says, I'm going to tear that girl apart. I'll drag her by her bald head. No one is leaving with eyebrows today. So that's just like a little indication of the kind of people we're working with that work here. And you may be wondering now, like, does anybody actually do this? Like, and why would they do this? And to answer that question, there is a 27,000 person wait list. So, needless to say, the demand is very strong for this. If you've taken any economics, you'll know McKamey Manor is absolutely crushing it with the supply and demand chart. But you may be wondering, what's the incentive? Well, one, as I said, there's my theory that there's some sort of sexual thing to it. There's the second theory that some people just want to see how far they can push themselves, and it's maybe an adrenaline rush. Although, hey man, there's a lot better ways to get adrenaline if that's what you're searching for. Or number three, you could be going after the $20,000 cash prize if you make it through McKamey Manor. And this is where we get to go into some of the controversies. So, the first controversy I want to talk about is whether or not people can actually get paid at McKamey Manor, like whether they can actually successfully complete this journey. And a lot of people think that the answer is no. So, one reporter from Tennessee reported that here's the thing, there is no $20,000. That's a direct quote from her. She said, no one has made it to the supposed Huntsville portion of the show. McKamey knows what will break people, and after stringing them along, he can simply pull out what's needed to shut down the show when it's ready to end. And the best case to support this is the character of a Marine that attempted to do this, and this Marine's name was Russell. And for those of you that are curious, they post a lot of their stuff online. Like they post a lot of videos of these experiences that they do with people, so you can kind of see. In fact, right now you're seeing some of the clips from McKamey Manor's own pages, and including right now from Russell, which kind of supports my theory that this is more of a thing to for people that are kind of like into that thing. You know, I don't want to go too far and say that's everybody, but it's definitely a weird thing to watch on YouTube by yourself. So this guy Russell was doing it, and he was doing fantastic, by the way. He was a Marine, he was crushing it, he was not going to give up. And then he was shaking due to it basically being blasted with cold water for hours, rightfully so. But he said he wanted to continue multiple times. He hadn't used a safe word, he had been rock solid throughout the whole thing. And the video states due to hyperthermia, they were pulling him out. Now, hey, hyperthermia has two definitions for those of you unaware. Hyperthermia is when the body gets too hot. And personally, I don't think they were shooting him with hot water. I think they were shooting him with cold water. But there's a second definition of hyperthermia that I've just come up with, which is the fear that you will have to pay a man $20,000 when you don't have that much money. That's right, I don't believe that anybody will ever beat McKamey Manor because nobody is ever going to be allowed to beat McKamey Manor. Whenever they get too close, they just pull the plug, say there was a health issue, they're done. So that's the first controversy around McKamey Manor. You know, you can do everything right. You can get tortured beautifully. You can be a good little submissive victim, and you still won't win. Now, there's a second issue, which is more like, is it actually legal to do this? Are they actually making sure people are safe? And, you know, from the quotes from the guard earlier, the abuser, you might think the answer is automatically no. And I totally agree with you. But let me read to you a little bit more about McKamey Manor. So originally, there was no safe word, and you weren't able to stop the tour. If you wanted to stop, the abusers had to decide that you were stopping, which, you know, after reading what the victims abusers said about how they don't have a line and all this, I don't think they were too inclined to stop anytime soon. Eventually, of course, though, they did implement a safe word. Don't worry. These guys are professionals. They're obviously medical professionals by their use of hyperthermia. They know what they're doing and they know when not to cross the line. Except in 2016, when Laura Hertz Brotherton was on a visit there, she reportedly used her safe word for several minutes repeatedly before employees stopped torturing her. It's supposed to be right away, but they just kept going, which, you know, makes sense. These people are obviously sadistic, and she later had to be treated at a hospital for extensive injuries. As was also mentioned before, three people, according to the owner, have died at McKamey Manor. Now, I haven't really seen a ton about that online, but I'm sure it's out there. I don't know why you would lie about that. So there it is, you know? And I think this kind of just gets to the whole kind of crux of this haunted house, which is kind of like let people do whatever they want to do versus like, should we leave people to make this decision for themselves? This seems like a horrible idea. And it's run by someone who is an awful person, by the way. Let me read to you something that just happened in July of this year. And this is kind of the final thing I want to talk about. Russ McKamey was arrested in July on charges of attempted second-degree murder, rape, and domestic assault. These were, as far as I'm aware, two back-to-back incidents involving him and his partner, and ultimately the charges were dropped. However, I will say that it doesn't usually happen to normal people. It's not often you get two back-to-back charges on you for murder, rape, and domestic assault. So that's the kind of person that we're dealing with here at McKamey Manor. And ultimately, I think this place is super sick and twisted. Hot take, I know. Um, but yeah, I just want to give an update to the people of YouTube because I don't want to let McKamey Manor and its awful, twisted legacy die until it shuts down. Obviously, if you want to go more in depth, there's a ton of stuff online. I just wanted to give the broad strokes here without getting too into the weeds of it. Thanks, everyone.